Alright guys, so oh wow. What's up? This will be an unedited attempt to do the last leg of the 4x4x48 challenge on my leg number 11. And my goal is to beat my post-rush survival score of right now 54. I want to get a score of 60. Before I get started, I want to give a small shout out to Tommy because he's one of the inspirations behind my drive to get better. I just saw this message to me about 10 minutes ago or whatever. And so he's going to stop playing on chess.com lead chess and grind to grandmaster title, which I think is kind of wise for him. And I kind of agree too, because personally, I stopped playing bullet chess and blitz chess myself in order to focus on just improving my rating and my puzzle strength as well. So best of all luck to him, of course. And with that out the way, let's go ahead and start our own journey as well. Of course, you might be asking, is it possible for an adult like myself to grind to Grandmaster or International Master? The answer is I'll have to quit my day job in order to do it because it will take a lot of effort and most importantly, energy. Doing this challenge has taught me that if I want to grind to Master, it's going to take me a lot of effort and focus to do that, of course, as you can see by our score today. So I've done at this point, 10 legs, and only gained three extra puzzle ratings right here. My original score was 51, now it's 54, and I got another 6 puzzles on top of the normal 50 I got to beat in order to achieve my goal. This is my last leg. For leg 12 at 7 o'clock, I'll be doing the Woodpecker book, which is over here somewhere. So my goal is to take my time, and if I do poorly in the first, I don't know, 40 puzzles, I might restart once. But this will be an unedited edition of this run right here, so you can see from start to finish how I did this right here. It might be a little bit boring to watch, but I recommend you just fast forward to different parts of the video that looks interesting, especially towards the end when hopefully I can show you just how hard it is to solve those hard puzzles past 40 to 50 or so. All right, so let's go ahead and start this up. And for some of the puzzles, I might explain what's going on, like right here. So knight takes, king up, pawn's pin, and then it's going to be mate in a couple, of course. All right, so hopefully with me running Screencastify, it's not going to cause any trouble with the quality of this. So we'll have to be a little bit careful not to, whatever. So you take the queen when the bishop takes on d4, rook takes on f8, and you have a piece. I gotta be a little bit careful not to overthink things because, I want to save this energy for when I'm doing my other stuff. King takes, you can't stop this, but you will promote first, and with check specifically. There you go. Black to move, you don't take back, you down a lot of material, you just go for checkmate. There we go. Here, you don't take the pawn, you push, and at the bare minimum, you'll take the rook, and you're up. A rook in this situation, at the very most, you might get checkmate, so, okay. There you go. Because we're threatening checkmate on the back rank. Right, white to move here. Again, yeah, so check first. I gotta be a little bit careful not to misclick. This is why I'm just kind of dragging my cursor. Check first because when the king moves here, then h4 is going to be mate, not the other way around. Right, there you go. Of course, check and then mate. Yeah, for the first couple of puzzles, I'm not going to really think much about it. A lot of the stuff I've seen before. hundreds of times at this point, so it's not really a big concern to me at this point. We got check, king here, check, king here. 1 second. Yeah, well, it's also been a long day, so I gotta take my time just a little bit, just so I don't accidentally mess up at the beginning. Check, here, check, check, here. How's that not mate? You would think that would be mate. Let me just click right here. All right, so you would think that would be mate. Notice how I'm trying to go for checks here. So check. If here, well, actually, yeah. Wow. Right, well, this is going to be the first move regardless. Yeah, so that's what I expected. This has to be the check right here, but then just king here, you just take. Is that going to be the answer right here? Right. There's no mate, unfortunately. There you go. Yeah, some of these puzzles are a little bit weird, like the objective, if you will. Yeah, the checkmate puzzles I'm really good at. The ones where I'm trying to like find the tactic can be a little iffy at times. Of course, go for mate. So far, so good. Queen takes knight. Not bishop takes first, because the queen guards that square right here. Right. I imagine that's going to be bishop takes pawn now, because you're threatening mate. There's no forks anywhere where you can win a piece. Whatever. I feel like in that position, my opponent could have had a different response besides sacrifice the queen, but whatever. All right, so we have a checkmate on board. Yeah, because basically it's going to be boom. Knight will block on f1. Then you take here, and then that's mate right here, of course. Yes, so I'm trying to just take my time, not trying to rush. Take the rook. If the king goes here right now, you just go here. Yep. If he takes this way, then of course you get the check first. Notice how our bishop controls that square. Now, game over. Yeah, so the first 20 or so is really easy. It's not really a challenge. White to move. So of course you take. Now, the endgame puzzles is really the harder ones because I'm kind of weak in endgame puzzles. And what I mean by that, for those who are not aware of the different phases of the game, you have the opening, middle game, and end game. Opening is when you get your pieces out. Middle game is when you're trying to attack, if you will, and end game is when you have the least pieces and you're trying to promote a pawn. In this situation, an easy way to know if your pawn's going to beat the enemy king, because essentially the goal of the game is to, queen, essentially, is that you have to count the squares it will take for the enemy king to catch your pawn. In this case, the pawn can travel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves to queen. And it's going to take the king 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what's going to happen, and of course in a real game of chess, you'll do this in your mind, but it's actually a really easy way to kind of do this. So when you play this move, the pawn forms a box. And if the king's outside that box at any point, then he's not going to catch the pawn. So like right here, notice how the box is now this big. Yep, it's that big. So when I move forward, the king can never get inside the box in time to stop the pawn. So I can just push. Yeah, so in chess, it's all about pattern recognition. It's about finding shortcuts to, find a solution and whatnot. Right here, very simple, queen check on e1, rook blocks, then bishop check, very important to deflect the king away, and then you can mate right there. Bada boom, bada bang. All right, so white to move. This is going to be a checkmate on this square because our bishop covers. Knows how the rook covers this way too, and that square's going as well. So there you go. I am taking my time just because I don't want to make a mistake specifically. All right, so right here we're looking for some kind of checkmate. The king's kind of in the center, so that's generally speaking how you go about this right here. And this kind of draws my attention. Knight check. The king's forced to this square specifically. Now the question is, I see, because this is a queen sacrifice. So when the knight goes to the square, the knight controls these squares, so does the bishop. And so it's really the dark squares you got to worry about right here. And so we have two pieces trained on that right there. So it's a sacrifice. Yeah. Again, this part's easy. This is a little tricky for those who might not be aware of the difference, but there is two ways to take this pawn right here. And in this run right here, that's gonna be the biggest challenge, is deciding which check to give and figuring out the difference. So chess is good for decision making because you're given two really good looking options, but the important thing is being able to discern which one's the better one of the two. So if rook check, the king has to go there, but the queen can still give a check this way. I don't really like those odds. So if queen check, oops, sorry, I'm being really careful and I'm trying to hold the mouse like this, just so I don't accidentally left click, because that has happened to me before, where I'm trying to right click and drag, and then accidentally left click and drag, and it costs my piece to move. So some people actually turn that off. They actually turn off the clicking and dragging. They turn on click and point, where you have to click the piece and click on the square it's going to avoid mouse slipping. But I like the natural movement of just clicking and dragging. All right, so if queen takes, the king can step to these two squares right here. So I'm kind of leaning more towards the first option. Actually, no, because this guy is unprotected. So that's the key difference here. So that's what I mean by decision making. It looks like this capture, we control, the king's movement on the H and G files right here. And you would think that's the answer, but it's actually this other one right here, because you take this with check. So if you can't checkmate the king, so checks, captures, and attacks. If you can't checkmate, then you have to look for captures then. And this is a really easy one to kind of get knocked out right there. All right, so we're going for a back range checkmate. So we take here first, either the queen or the rook comes back, and those, however, kind of x-rays the square as well. Right here, this blue square. So in chess, being able to coordinate pieces together like this is really important. This is why chess is so powerful, because there's so many concepts you can use in real life, like decision making, coordination, visualization, pattern recognition, patience. All this can be combined into one game. This is why chess is so powerful. Yep. And you don't take, you can take the queen now, because the rook x-rays defends that through the piece. And that's going to be mate right there, of course. Very simple smother mate. Yeah, I have to work on my queen knight checkmates, but this is something that I'm well aware of. The idea, oops, don't want to mess that up, is that it's discovered check, so it's double check. The king has to move, and now it's very simple. You put the queen in the corner, supported by another piece, sometimes the bishop, sometimes the knight, and you don't take the rook. You go right here for mate right here and smother me because the king's surrounded by pieces and he cannot attack the knight who is too far away to be attacked. All right, so again, if you remember, again, pattern recognition, do you remember that, like one of these puzzles right here? I forget which one. Let's actually check real quick. It's one of these earlier ones, I think, where you, no, not that one. Not that one either. Not that one. It's one of these other ones where basically you have a dark square bishop. I know, well, hey, if you're here for the long haul, you're here for the long haul. So just be patient for a second. I want to find the right one I'm talking about. No, but that's kind of similar concept, if you will. Yeah, right here. So in this puzzle right here, it needs to move my webcam just for a second so you can see this. Yeah, so if you remember in that puzzle, where my cursor's at, just visualize for a second. It's the same concept. So this is why it's, well, this is how you get good at chess, is being able to recognize similarities in different positions. In that position, we played queen to e1 check. The rook has to block. Then we play bishop takes on e3 check, force the king to the corner, and then we take the rook for checkmate. So that's kind of the idea here too. So we just kind of swing this back down here, out the way. In this position, it's kind of the queen filling the bishop's role. So what you'll do is you'll give a check first. You can't check here because the rook could just block, and that's not good. So you get the check first. Rook blocks, and just like before that last puzzle, you give a check to force the king away from the rook. The rook's now unprotected, and now that's checkmate, of course. So again, the power of pattern recognition, be able to make decisions quickly and not have to think much about it. It saves you a lot of energy. All right, so we have a bishop that's kind of cutting into the position right here. The question is, oh, I actually have seen this puzzle before. Oh my gosh, that's actually funny. I actually have seen this puzzle before, like in like leg number 4 or 5, I think, earlier on, like yesterday. Because well, yeah. Well, I'm not surprised. I saw this puzzle before. You give a check, rook blocks, or something blocks. You take, and you go here as mate, or one of the ways you could mate. So if this blocks, you deflect the rook away from the fence of that square, and then that's mate. Yeah, I actually saw that one before. That's funny. All right. So what is happening in this position? Well, the king's kind of surrounded by pieces, but none of them really doing a good job of protecting the king in this situation right here. I wonder if it's going to be like rook, oops, sorry. Rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, and you're threatening a mate in one right here, essentially. I wonder if it's going to be that. Let me just make sure I click off somewhere I can't legally move. Let's just kind of calculate this real quick. It's not going to be queen takes. It's not going to be queen check because I don't see a real follow-up after that. It could be bishop takes first and then this move. Yeah, see, this is where it gets a little tricky. Like, I feel like chess.com does this on purpose. Like, when you do puzzle rush survival, they might throw in, when I say they, I mean the algorithm, if you will. It throws in these harder puzzles where you have a lot of good looking answers, if you will, but it's only one that actually makes the most sense. So this is a common example of what do you do? We have two really good choices you can make right here. And in a real game of chess, you wouldn't spend as much time thinking about this. You would just make a move. I think most human players would just take the bishop first. But the problem with taking the bishop first is that this rook can take, and that adds another defender to its pawn right here. And I think the threat of checkmate is stronger than, the threat of, I don't know. You get what I'm saying. Plus, we're not really just attacking this pawn right here. We're also attacking this behind it, which has only 2 defenders and 3 attackers. So that's also the other kind of side of this as well too. Yep. But in a real game of chess, I think most people would just have played bishop takes bishop and would have played a position from there. It probably would have been fine for our side, that is. But in this case, if you want the full point, you're going to have to go for the jugular, as they say. Um, this one's actually kind of tricky. You would think that I can't. All these look tricky, actually. I wonder if I can resize this box right here. Oh, I can. Sweet. I can make it bigger and smaller. I might make it about this size, which is leave it alone, essentially. So, right. Well, before I get to that check, it's really tempting. Let me just make sure I click so I cannot legally move. It's really tempting to make this move because you're threatening checkmate right here. But remember, black does have a move as well, and I think queen takes, knight takes, and you're not really checkmating then no more. So you want to look for forcing ways to give mate, and this is the most forcing way right here to give a check. When rook takes, our rook would take back right here. And when the king steps forward, now we give this check, and now it's mate because the king cannot run away. So slight move order. Definitely knowing how to sequence moves is important in chess, so that way you can get the effect you want. It's the same idea, just the pawn moves forward a square sooner, or moves sooner. Sorry, it looks the same, but if you give your opponent a chance to consolidate, they will. So, all right, and now this is what's checkmate right here. Key difference. Alright, so we're doing good so far. In my last run, I got to about 30 something and got my first loss. So I'm always kind of on the lookout for nonsense like that. Alright, so what is happening in this position? So we're trying to hunt the king. That's the name of the game right here, because if we don't, this is going to be checkmate. So you're going to have to do something about that, of course. Alright, so as always, got to look for our checks. We have this check right here, which I really hope I don't accidentally prove. I mean, that's my biggest worry, is I'm going to accidentally, just make the move and just lose a puzzle immediately, which is going to be awful. This is another check too, also this one too. And I'll pause for a second. I want you guys to visualize this yourselves. We got 3 different queen checks. We have this one, that one, and this one right here. All right, we got 3 different queen checks. So pause your video if you want to solve this yourself and try to visualize which one's the better check. They all give check, but which one's going to lead to actual mate? As I drink a sip of water real quick. Oh, you said green one? Then you're wrong. It's actually this one. Because you don't want the king running backwards back to that light square we used to guard. That's why it was the other one. I told you chess is tricky. If you chose the other 2 checks, you would have chased the king around and not get mate, and then you would have got mated yourself. So it's very important you just keep that in mind. Right here though, all right, so this check looks tempting, but doesn't really lead to much because the queen just takes. However, we do have an attack. There's no checks, but there is an attack we can give here though, which is just queen here. Knight here. And we were threatening to take the pawn with mate next, so of course we'll go from there. With this one right here, this one's kind of interesting because you would think that, oh, actually I think this is kind of interesting. I think you gotta give a queen sacrifice, believe it or not, because the idea is after the king takes, the king's no longer like right here. So check. But then again, the king will just run here and escape essentially. So you gotta be a little bit careful. Sometimes queen sacrifices like that does make sense to get the king in the right square, but in this case, it doesn't really work out that well. I think I give a check first then. And the idea is that if the bishop blocks, I see. You sacrifice the rook. If the king runs, well, he can't run. He has to take back, and then now queen here's going to mate. So basically, one of the ideas was to force the king, because this is backrange checkmate, knows how these squares are covered by our knight and queen right here. And so after you take, just double check and make sure this is correct, of course, because I don't want to get this far and then embarrass myself, right? Now you just come here, and that's mate, of course. I chose this time of day to record because I had a good run earlier, and I felt like that this was going to be a good run since I'm on camera, and I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to rush through this. This looks familiar too, almost, but not quite. I see. So this one's about, if I had to give it a name, it's about putting pieces on the right squares. Notice how we're putting pressure on this pawn right here. We're not threatening to win that pawn or to checkmate right now, but we will be in a second after this move. All right, and we don't trade queens, of course. We'll block the queen's attacks, and also we don't go for this either because we hang our queen, so it's never too late to blunder. And we're threatening mate on that square right there. That was the whole point. This one we kind of have to take because if we don't, then you might get backrange checkmated. So these kinds of puzzles where, I mean, you don't have to take. Like you could push the pawn theoretically speaking if check, just drop the piece back. But then after takes, and then like rook here, then the pawn stopped. So I do think that you do have to take here. And the idea is that after takes, your pawn cannot be stopped. Like because here's the idea. So you take, you push, the rook comes back just in time to stop the pawn after you play a2. But now you have a really cool tool. Because the king is also on the back rank and is vulnerable, you have this move. And white has to waste a move creating a flight square. And that gives you enough time to come here with check to either win the rook or to make a queen, essentially. Timing in chess is everything, too. You have to time your attacks well. Otherwise, you're not going to land well, if that makes sense. That's a boxing term, by the way. All right, so we're looking for mate. And there's a couple of checks here that looks tempting. Armpit itches. And we're going for mate because, again, look at the material. So black is up a piece. So anytime you get a puzzle like this, you want to look for some kind of mate or some kind of overwhelming attack to win back some material. Those are kind of things you're looking for in these kinds of positions. Oh, I forgot to start my timer. I wonder how long I've been playing. Let's see. I got my screen classified thing up here though. Okay, I've been talking for about half hour. Cool. All right, well, I forgot to start my timer right here, but whatever. Yeah, half hour is not, yeah, pardon me. All right, let's see. So in this position, it does matter which rook you give a check with first. So it's tempting to go here check, but then after this move, there's no real good follow-up. Actually, yes and no. And here's why. Let's click right here. So check, king here. You can give it. I'm not sure if you heard that or not, but that was a really loud, annoying child. whining outside my door, it sounds like. He might bellow again. Let's all hope it's not captured by the microphone. Um, we could go check if, king here, which is the only move. We could go check again, trade the rooks, and get the piece back. But again, we're not trying to go for this kind of nonsense. Also, notice how we're just a step away from getting checkmate ourselves. So we have to act with some urgency right here. So I'm actually thinking more about some of these other checks right here. So is there a way for us to get the king on this back rank and deliver some kind of mate in that regard? And they might be. So we could give a check this way, because the idea is that if the king steps here, we got check. The king's forced to take. Rook check, our pawn covers. So when the rook blocks, we take there. It's not mate too. So rook rollers are essential to know. They're one of those checkmate patterns you definitely want to know if you want to become any kind of chess player. And knowing how to use your two rooks together, I like to call them wrong color. Sorry. Get the right color real quick. Nope. Yep. So you got John and Chad. John's the green rook. Chad's the blue rook. When I teach chess lessons, I like to call them John and Chad. And being twins, John and Chad get mixed up. You get them mixed up really easily, and you have to work together. So just like any, family or any sports team, whatever, you have to work together. You can't have one guy, one gal steal all the show. So let me just double check real quick. So John will give a check. The king will come here. You give a pawn check specifically to force the king to step away from this square. And then you give another check. And then that's going to be made from there. So I'm kind of taking my time again. And notice how the king cannot go here because our king kind of covers. And then there you go. All right. Well, we're 33 in. No mistakes. Let's keep it that way. All right. So there's some tension. I think the move right here is going to be a queen check. Specifically right here. So now, in these kinds of positions, when you're trying to force the enemy king away from the defense of one of his pieces, you gotta think of what can your opponent do to try to defend their material, if you will. Because in this position, you're trying to win an extra piece or win all the pieces and have a winning endgame, if you will. So after queen check, if the rook blocks, we take the queen with check, and then we're just winning. If the queen blocks, then I think, yeah, we take the rook, because when the queen takes, we take with the pawn then. So, yeah. So you don't take the queen, because the rook will just take, and that's just dead equal, if not losing, because, white has this passed pawn right here. You take this first, and when we capture, the pawn protects our rook right here. And then now you just have to slide over, and that's going to be GG right there. You might be saying at this point, man, you're so good at chess. Well, these are the easy ones. When I get to a truly hard one, I'll let you guys know. But right now, these are, there's been a couple of tricky ones that demand a little bit of attention, not just, snap, take, if you will. But for these ones right here, it's been pretty decent. So this is another one where you want to go for checkmate, because again, we're down a piece, right? So again, same idea. So again, in puzzles, in general in chess too, you want to go for checks, captures, or attacks. In this case, we're going for a checkmate right here. So as always, you gotta look for our checks. And the best check here is going to be rook check. Not queen check, because the queen can block, and we don't want a queen check here. You want to definitely avoid that at all costs. So rook check. The king only has a couple of moves. Notice how if he tries to go to this square, then he'll get mated in short order. So he's forced to go to this square, and that leaves our queen open to go to c8. Making sure I'm not going to click that button. That would be really bad right now to sacrifice a queen this early on. I'm so confident that I do think this is the move. There's no other checks that make any kind of sense. So we can safely make this check first. Again, the king tries to run, but we'll give another check right here. The king will step forward. Our rook will check, right? King here. And then now it's just a matter of figuring out where's the mate. Is it just rook down? And if, like, rook here? No. It might be. And like queen here, essentially. It might be hard to follow because I'm trying to vocalize. It's gonna help my chest if I do this as well too. So that's why I'm kind of vocalizing what I'm trying to think right here. You could also go rook check, king. No, because the king's close enough to that square, so you can't really do that no more. So you gotta go for checks, of course. Check. The king's forced to go right here. Rook check. The king's forced to go right here. And the only issue is making sure he doesn't take that pawn. So this is why I kind of thought for a second about rook to a4 check, sacrificing the rook in order to allow our queen to slip in, and then here's mate. Because you don't want the king running away. That's probably the one thing that will get you messed up in these puzzles is, and also in real games, is just going for random checks and not thinking about how you want to restrict the king. So that's kind of the goal in chess. So keep that in mind, of course. So give a check. We don't give a pawn check or even move this pawn because we're close to getting mate ourselves. So we have to look for forcing moves. And that would have led to checkmate from there, of course. All right, we're up to 35. This one's going to be kind of hard, but I think this one's kind of cool. So this is going to be a sacrifice, another sacrifice idea. Pawn check. Again, yeah, look for checks because as you can see, we're down a lot of material right here. And so we can't just lackadaisically just do anything, right? So pawn check, king here, and then rook over is going to be mate. Well, not quite because the king will come back, but then it'll be mate soon enough, of course. So, and then right here is going to be mate. There you go. So 36 down. All right, this is a very standard puzzle right here. Notice how we have this passed pawn that does kind of serve a role right here too. So I'm thinking about just knight here, and if pawn push, our rook's always behind the pawn, so it's not really a big deal, but we do give a check. But the only issue though is that we don't really have a good follow-up after that, unfortunately. I think I see the answer. So believe it or not, we might actually part ways with our knight temporarily. Just make sure I click right here. I think in this position, you actually take the pawn to stop that threat altogether, because you don't want the pawn to get to here and check, and then it promotes, and you lose, of course, right? So you take. Naturally, white's going to take the knight, and now you give a check right here. The king steps forward, and you give a check right here. You trade rooks, and I don't think the knight can stop the pawn from promoting from that position. Oh no. Wow. Well then, that was our first loss. That looks so convincing too. Oh my gosh. We'll have to look at back at that one when we're done. 1667, 1967. Well, that's very disappointing. All right, we're in check. There's a lot going on in this position. Man, I hate when that happens. All right, we'll shake it off. So in chess, being able to shake off defeats like that is going to be really important if I want to get to my goal, of course, which is another 24 puzzles. And we are going to get there. We're committed. We're not going to stop. We'll keep going for sure. All right, so we're in check. So obviously, it's going to be a question of what square do we go to? Do we take the bishop? I don't think we take the bishop because black takes the queen with check, and after the rook takes, then the queen can just go somewhere else. So I really don't think that's going to be the answer. Now, just like before, or maybe we do. Maybe we do, because here's why. Here's why I say that. Because, okay, rook takes. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so tired now. I can't double. I can't. If rook takes queen, check, then we take with the rook. Okay, so his queen's still under fire. If the queen moves here, then we take this rook, and we're now threatening a back rank checkmate. So we get the two rooks and the bishop versus the queen situation, if you will. And we have to do that because if we move our king, then we'll lose our queen for nothing, and they'll keep their bishop and probably their rook as well. Okay, and of course, you could take the queen, threaten mate. You don't take the rook because the queen gets to move, and that would be bad, of course. Come back, and then there you go. All right, I'm going to have to use all my talent right here in order not to lose, because getting that first strike, and I was kind of waiting for this moment to kind of talk about this. I was going to talk about this back in the 20s, but now that we're in the 30s and getting into the 40s, it's going to be very important to start talking about this, and that is managing your strikes. So we got a strike early on. I was hoping that I'll be able to get through the first 40 without any strikes whatsoever. We got close, not quite there. So you have to look at that puzzle later to see how we missed that one right there. Um, and it's important because, again, if you get like the first one of the first 10 wrong, then you may as well just restart because you're not going to make it to 60. Because once you get past a certain rating zone, which we're about to pass right now, getting past 40, then the amount of calculation per puzzle increases, and the likelihood you'll make a mistake along the way is going to be much higher as well too. So it's important to keep as many strikes in your back pocket as possible. Now that we're down to 2 left, it's still not impossible to get to 60 or even, at least past 50. It's still very possible. I'm only 13 away from 50, which will be a really good milestone to get back up to 50 uh, for the third or fourth time on this site right here, I think. So I just want to mention that because, you know, there's a very small margin for error. So you want to be careful not to, you get the point. All right, in this position, black is, all right, so we're up a piece. So that's one thing I kind of noticed about this position already. So the key thing is going to be figuring out how did we consolidate. And these kinds of puzzles is just trying to find the safest moves and not blundering something in the process. And we gotta be careful about where we move our queen, because if we move our queen just any old square, Then queen takes on h6 is going to happen because the pawn on g7 is pinned to the king. So we have to be a little bit careful about that. I don't think we're going to sacrifice for the rook. I mean, you could and just say, hey, we have a bit of material for the queen, a piece and a rook for the queen. So it's not exactly a bad situation. But I'm assuming that we're trying to win this game specifically. All right, so my first thought, of course, is just queen takes on h5 to protect the knight right here. That's like the immediate thing. There's no checks to give in order to like try and. So I mean, that's probably gonna be the first answer. If I get this wrong, then we're just gonna have to speed through the rest of this run, and because I really want to try my best in this time I have right now to do this right. So this is where having a margin for error is really important, so you don't like double guess yourself. Yep. So I mean, that's the only move that's going to protect the knight. There is no counterplay. There is no queen takes on d4. There is no queen takes on g1. I mean, there's really nothing else. I mean, you could take on g1, but so I mean, this is going to be the move. I'm pretty sure, right? Yep. So that's pretty standard. And so now it's just a matter of figuring out what to do next. And I guess what's going to happen is we're going to play queen g6. If the rook comes back, we'll just block with the rook and play like one of our pawn moves to protect the knight, and then we're going from there with just up a piece then. That's my thought, that is. But again, this is where the doubt starts creeping in, because before I could just lackadaisically just like, oh yeah, this is the line, no big deal, right? And now it's like, oh gosh, I'm down to 2 lives. I got to double check, because if I get this wrong and I want to continue seriously to try and beat 60, then I have 1 life left, or 1 strike left, sorry. So this is when it gets real. I mean, this is going to be the only move. Because if we move the queen anywhere else, I mean, it just gets taken. So this is going to be the move. And so we could repeat moves, but I really do trust that this is going to be the move right here, which is just a knight here. All right, good. Yeah, I'm glad that in some puzzles they don't make you test your knowledge. Like I think chess.com understands that to a certain degree, you know, as long as you get the main concept of the puzzle, which is you're trying to hold on to your extra material and not blunder it right back with a worse position, then I think they just end the puzzle early. Not think, I know, because there's some situations where you're like, oh gosh, I know the move, I got Nick right now, but I don't know the follow up after this. And then chess.com's like, oh well, you found the move, good on you. Here's your next puzzle. So I do like that they do that sometimes, but they also try and screw you over too. And it's like, oh my gosh, I thought that this was supposed to be over by now. All right, so what is happening right here? All right, so we're not gonna get checkmated, so that's probably one good thing about this position. But we are down a substantial amount of material. So if you haven't already guessed, then we're going to have to go for some kind of checkmate right here again. But this is kind of my specialty, if you will. So I really do have high hopes I'll be able to find a solution right here. If not, then I'm just going to have to cry myself to sleep tonight. All right, so obviously the first check is going to be this one. I mean, it's a free piece, so I mean, it never hurts, right? Just to start with the obvious ones, right? And then the king's forced to go to the square. So the question is going to be, this is going to be the discover check to win the game, because the king's cut off on these squares, and there's no way to kind of block, I don't think. And most importantly, the knight covers that square, so that way the king cannot run away. So, right, you don't take the rook, you go for checkmate. I'm just trying to double check. Oh god, okay, I actually did have a heart attack right then. I did not. I forgot the bishop was right there. Oh god, I was like, oh my gosh. But then, yeah, these attention to details. Gosh darn, that gave me a heart attack. All right, good thing it was discovered check. If I had to just find a check, then that would have been a horrible move because my knight's hanging. But it was discovered check, so there's no time to take the knight and also protect your king. And of course, in this position, we just take the pawn with the bishop right, and everything's cool. Yes. Oh my gosh, that scared the living juices out of me. I'll just say. All right. So in this position, yeah, it's a lot going on in this position right here. I think I see the answer right here. So it kind of combines what we already seen before about backbreak checkmate and use into our advantage to win a piece. Not so much to get checkmate, but to at least win a piece. So the idea is that you're not going to take with the queen. That would be horrible. I mean, it's not losing, but look at the pawns. I mean, these guys are just going to march to victory lane, if you will. So it's not going to be the queen, it's going to be the knight that takes. And when the queen takes back, you don't take the queen, you give a check. And when the queen tries to block, then you give a rook check. And that's going to be most likely the solution right here. Oh, the god, right? Oh my gosh. All right, just shake it off. Man, these puzzles are just so unforgiving. I didn't even see what happened in this one. I was just so. You don't take with the queen, you take with the king. I'm assuming. I mean, you're up a piece after the recapture, so I mean, why would we not take the bishop, right? Man, I could do better than this. 21-82, that's not a high score. That is not convincing at all. All right, get off the screen. All right, thank you. All right, well, we're now on the last bit, if you will. So obviously the first move is going to be king takes bishop. It's not going to be anything else. There's no checkmate we're trying to set up. We're just trying to bank material and hold on to it just like before. Okay. And now the question is going to be where to put our piece at. It's one or two squares. If we go to this square, then the queen infiltrates, right? So we don't want that to happen. Bad things happen after that. So we go right here, right? 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 Yeah. Wow. 39. Wow. Is it because of takes and here? Most likely. Oh man, that was so brutal. Well, we're gonna have to try this again. I'm gonna do this off camera though. For the second attempt, I might add, if I do well in the second attempt, I might add it to this video later, so you might see my ugly face again. Oh my gosh, man, that was just brutal. But that's what I mean, like. And when I do my second run, I'm just gonna be just doing. Not gonna be worried about talking about it because it does take some energy. It's a little bit like I like to talk out loud because it forces me to make a real plan. I can't just feel my way through. So it forces me to actually to conceptualize my moves, if you will. So, but all right, let's see what happened in these games right here real quick. I'm gonna have to change something real fast though. Because if I go to another window, you won't be able to see it, I don't think. Let's try it real quick and see what happens. Oh yeah, you can't see it. Now unless I do something about this real quick. I don't want to stop this. Well, you're gonna have to just watch my face for just 1 second. Because I can't. I mean, when I made this recording, I just want to do a browser tab and not, whatever. So I just want to look at this one real quick. This is the one where I thought I could take the pawn with the rook and be okay, but I guess that's not the case. Was it then knight to d3? Nope, that was not the answer either. Wow. Okay, I see. Because the knight fork, that's hard to see. Come on now. That's really hard to see. Okay, let's go back to the mothership. So for this one right here, the idea was you're going to have to match this for a second, but our knight goes down. And then when the rook takes the pawn, you give a check and forking the king and the rook. That's what's the idea in that post right there. All right, so let's look at this one real quick. So you might have to just imagine this because I don't feel like this is the one where I thought I could take the bishop with the knight right here. Is it just rook up? Okay, it is rook up. And I guess now you take with the knight. All right, it was a rook lift idea to exploit the pin. Interesting. Again, these puzzles are brutal. And for this one right here, I'll definitely make sure to show you guys this one real quick before I sign off. All right, so it takes queen check just like before. All right, so this square was not the best square. I guess, that's still wrong. Oh my gosh. So you block the check? That makes no sense. I'll have to show you guys this in 1 second. Oh, that still makes no sense. Wow. That makes 0 sense. Yeah, 8.6 pass rate. I'm not surprised. So I'll show you guys this one real quick. Let me, can I go back? Is it gonna let me go back? So the idea, you're gonna have to just follow my arrows for a second. When my king was right here, the idea was to go, where was it? It was actually to block with the queen, supposedly. And I thought that, rook takes rook. You just win the piece back, but I guess the queen's unprotected then. So that was like the most solid way to kind of correct this position. Because again, if you go to f8, then rook takes rook, queen takes, and yeah, this happens right here. So brutal, man, brutal. You can't win them all. So let me go back out real quick to my profile to kind of wrap up. Now we do have time to try one more run. So because I started at 3 o'clock and it took me about an hour to do this one right here. So I'll log this time in 1 second. But let's go to my stats. Yes, I'll definitely upload this to YouTube at the very least to give you guys something to watch on your own time, of course. Yeah, so this is the run right here. Oh wait, sorry, that's the puzzle. Sorry. This is the run right here. 39, 44 earlier today, 45 earlier today as well. One this morning because I was not going to stay up and try to do this right here. Yes, my best score is 54. I cannot seem to get past the 40s. The 40s are really, really tough because if you make one mistake, your margin for error goes really, really down. You can't afford to make mistakes after that. So it sucks to suck, right? Well, not sucks to suck. It's just sucks sometimes, right? So 60, we're going to try one more time. And if I do break it or get close, I will definitely record that attempt as well. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see some of you guys in real life soon.